4.5 days, 253 sessions, 377 presenters and panelists, 525,600 jokes about how hot it is in Orlando in August, and 1,522 gallons of coffee, 52% consumed this morning by me. 64 hours of programming since Sunday morning, and here we are at hour 65. So rather than fill your heads with yet more data, my mission today is to give you some advice on how to synthesize it all. And I'm going to keep it light, I promise. But first, I do need to talk to you about an obscure concept from music theory. Have any of you ever heard of Heinrich Schenker? I love that. Heinrich Schenker, for those of you who don't know, was a German music theorist from the late 19th, early 20th century who proposed that any piece of tonal music, however small or large, could be distilled to just a few simple harmonies or chords. It's like the DNA of the composition. He could take a Chopin waltz, say, and boil it down to F minor, C minor, B flat major, F minor, or a movement from a Mozart symphony and distill it to B major, G major, E minor, B major. Schenkerian theory is the ability to take a step back and take in the notes and rhythms and swirling melodies of great music and only hear those few foundational chords to help you understand the arc of the work. For instance, last night's closer, Uptown Funk, can be distilled to D. So this conference, these last 64 hours, is to me like some kind of massive symphony with 4.5 movements and 253 phrases and 1,722 players, because we've all played a part with ideas and insights that rise and fall and cascade and intertwine like the greatest counterpoint you've ever heard. And I think that today, I can be like the Heinrich Schenker of this conference, because I think I've taken it all in. And I think I can distill it down into a few key thoughts, or chords, if you will, for you to bring back home. So journey with me now on my nerdy Schenkerian conference experiment that you all played a part in. Now, if you saw me on Sunday night at Neighborhood Networking, you might have noticed that I wore 3 stickies that asked 3 different questions. And I did that to help organize my talk today. And the first sticky said this: I want to learn why you are here. Why did you come to TLCC? And I heard, to learn something. I heard to get help with an issue, to network with my peers. But if I'm Heinrich Schenker, I heard something different. I heard that everyone came here for the same reason: to change what they know about Tessitura, to change their professional circle, to change how they work, to change how their organization thinks. The Schenkerian answer to question number 1, why did you come to TLCC, is to change for the better. Now, however you took your notes this week, here's my first suggestion. On a clean piece of paper, write at the top, things to change for the better. And then go back through all of your notes and see all of the things in there that you want to change for the better. And some of you, it may be smaller things. Others, you may be looking for big changes. And for a bit of inspiration, here's a story from somebody who came last year and how she made big changes. Chloe Shafto was a ticket office supervisor at the Wales Millennium Center. And she loved working there. But she'd hit a point in her career where she didn't know where the next step was going to be. And so she went to David Pierce, Strategic Director of Business Performance at the center, for advice. And together they came up with a really unorthodox solution. David, leveraging the wonderful community, called his friends at the South Bank Center and proposed a temporary transfer for Chloe. As it turns out, South Bank Center happened to have the perfect opportunity for her to learn. And so Chloe went to London for 6 months and worked as an adjunct member of the visitor services team at the South Bank Center. And she learned tons, and she taught them about how they do things at the Millennium Center. And together, they learned. It was mint. Talk about a big change. Chloe changed her story. So go back to that first piece of paper that says changes for the better and look a little deeper at what you've written there. Is there anything in there that seems impossible? Think about Chloe. She hit a roadblock, but sometimes in the world of Tessitura, you can achieve the impossible. Now, I love that one because it's not just about changing your story. It's also about two Tessitura organizations working together towards a common goal, collaborating. The second sticky I wore on Sunday night said, I want to meet collaborators. And I heard about departments working together. I heard about artistic working with administration. Later in the week, we learned about the Lyric Opera collaborating with Second City and the Harris Theater. But if I take all of these collaboration thoughts and I boil them all down to a single Schenkerian chord, to me, it's like the words from that famous great thinker, Tim Berners-Lee, that other great thinker, Jack Johnson, when he sang, "It's always better when we're together." C major, F major, B flat, 7. So if your first piece of paper was things to change, on the second piece of paper, write collaborators. And here's a few things to think about around collaboration, one of which you could do next week. I'm always amazed at how many Tessitura organizations don't do this one simple thing that can be so effective. Once a month, for 1 hour, get all of your Tessitura power users together in a room and talk about Tessitura. That's it. Just last week, I heard from Edwin Derecho. He's the CFO of the Celebrity Series in Boston. They just started their monthly Tessitura meeting, and already it's a huge success. They are strategizing together. They are planning for the upgrade together. It's wonderful. And when I say meet in a room, I do mean all in the same room if you can. I was talking to Jerry Strauss at the Met, and recently there, they've been really pushing to have their Tessitura meetings in person rather than phoning it in. Because, if you're phoning it in, you're kind of phoning it in. Because you never know where that next in-person meeting might lead. Let me tell you about Tessitura in the East Midlands and how that started all with just a few in-person meetings. And this one was related to me by Jonathan Saville, the Director of Marketing and Sales and Development at the Theatre Royal and the Royal Concert Hall in Nottingham. Now, the East Midlands is a region smack dab in the middle of England. And at the start of this tale, the cultural organizations in that region didn't particularly collaborate or communicate. But a few years ago, Jonathan's organization was looking to change ticketing systems. They weren't on Tessitura at the time. And so they reached out to their cultural neighbors, and ultimately 4 of them got together, banded together. They chose Tessitura. They created a new entity called Ticketing Network East Midlands. And ultimately, they achieved the goals of what they were trying to do. They implemented Tessitura. They created a consortium. They're a model user of it now, and they share very, very well. But the story does not end there. You see, in order to implement Tessitura, those 4 organizations had to start meeting in person. And the executives from those organizations had to start meeting in person. And not just meeting to meet, but meeting towards a common goal to implement Tessitura. But once that implementation was done, something wonderful and completely unexpected happened. You see, those executives, they kept talking, and they kept meeting, but no longer about systems. They started talking about how else they could collaborate now that they shared a technology. They talked about how they could raise the cultural profile of the East Midlands. They talked about how they could leverage their combined creativity and power to bring more people to the culture of their region. And from those conversations came a brand and an initiative called Spirit Nottingham. And from there came a 10-day cultural festival, the Nottingham European Arts and Theatre Festival, or NEATFest as it came to be known, that attracted thousands and thousands of new people from all over the UK to their region. Now, at the end of this amazing tale, I asked Jonathan, do you think all of that stuff would have happened without Tessitura at the beginning of the story? And unequivocally, Jonathan said, no, absolutely not. A shared technology, a brand, a regional arts movement, a festival, thousands and thousands of people participating in the culture of the East Midlands, and it all began with a few people sitting around a table talking about Tessitura. So go back to your second sheet that says collaborators and think through this week and all the stories of collaboration you heard, and write down your ideas, big or small. Because remember, a community can be as small as 2 people, and a movement can start with a single meeting. Imagine what we can do if we can continue to collaborate. Now, I love that one because it's not only about these Tessitura organizations collaborating, but it's about them collaborating to help bring people and culture together. The final sticky that I wore on Sunday night said, I would like to learn about your favorite moment at work. And I heard about operas at sunset in Santa Fe. I learned about giving Sean Astin a tour of the Lord of the Rings exhibit at the Museum of Science in Boston. Mic-dropping performances. But if I take all of these moments of thrills and chills and tears and laughter, and I boil them all down to that one Schenker chord, it was, for me, a simple reminder to keep the culture close in the work that we do. So this next story is actually about me. Many of you here have heard of Matilda the musical. It was conceived and produced by the Royal Shakespeare Company, a member of our community. So last November, I went to see Matilda in London with Jack. And every day working for the Tessitura Network is a joy, truly. But this particular day had been a little rough. So for someone who travels as much as I do, it's a little ironic that I have never learned how to sleep on an airplane. So by the time we left the hotel, I hadn't slept for 36 hours. We were in London in November, so it was a downpour. My umbrella was leaky. I was on a cell phone call to the States that wasn't going particularly well. And so by the time I plunked down in my seat at the theater, I frankly had regretted even going. I was tired, I was frazzled, and I was damp. And yet, after a first act where the child stars of that show are put through all manner of heartache and grief, the second act opens in a moment of pure beauty. The song, When I Grow Up, starts with just a little piano and a single child singing words like, when I grow up, I will be strong enough to carry all the things you have to haul around with you when you're a grown-up. And as they sing, they start to swing on these huge wooden swings hanging down from the truss. And I don't know if it was the music or the scenery or the words, or my jet lag, or my bad day, or the fact that right at that moment, I was 5,000 miles away from my own plucky, bookish little girl. But as those kids launched their swings out over the audience and the music swelled, it was, for me, a transcendent moment. And I will never forget it. And my bad mood melted away. Transcendent moments. We've all had them at work. And they're so special because they're so rare. And if you're like me, you probably have a catalog of them in your head. Here's a few from my list. Twyla Tharp's 9 Sinatra songs with Hubbard Street Dance when they toured through my hometown right after college in my first arts internship. The Cleveland Orchestra at Carnegie Hall, where I was so privileged to work at the beginning of my career. Madame Butterfly at Opera Australia at the Sydney Opera House, which I got to see during my very first visit to Australia with Tessitura. Taking my daughter to her first musical, The Music Man, with the Broadway Rose Theater near where we live in Oregon. Neil deGrasse Tyson and a surprise walk-on at the American Museum of Natural History when we were there just at the start of our implementation. This one, we all experienced together. And Matilda. So there's actually someone in the audience today who was at the opening night of Matilda the Musical. Ruth Harris, Tessitura administrator at the RSC, and she told me this wonderful story. So she took her niece, her young niece, to the opening, and they were standing together at intermission, at the interval. And she could tell her niece was just trying to work out what it was exactly that Auntie Ruth did for a living. And she looked up at Ruth and she said, "So, wait a minute. You work here?" And Ruth said, "Well, yes." And her niece said in a voice that reverberated through the entire lobby, "You have the coolest job in the world." And Ruth, if you know Ruth, said, "Well, yes, I suppose I do." You see, because the artists created that work, and they brought it to the stage. And Ruth and her colleagues are bringing it to the world, because that's what we do. We all have the coolest job in the world, to someone, and hopefully to us. If the first page was about changes to be made, and the second was about collaborations, well, the third page is perhaps the most special, because that's the one that you bring out when you've had a bad day. And that is your list of transcendent moments. Those moments where you burst with pride at what you are helping to bring to the world. Write them down. Pin them up on the walls. Make it your screensaver. Project it on a 90-foot screen. Talk to each other about them, because this is why we do what we do. 3 Schenkerian chords for the symphony that was this week. And it's kind of funny because they're relatively familiar if you think about it. We are, after all, together, a network that changed the story of an industry. And as Jack said on Sunday night, with community in our DNA, we bring a spirit of collaboration to everything we do towards the goal of bringing transcendent moments to millions of people around the world. Isn't it kind of wonderful that a little software that was built to end technical integrations ended up creating millions of human ones? 12,966 changes to be made. 4,722 collaborations just waiting to happen. Countless transcendent moments. 4.5 days. 1,722 of us all together. 523 organizations and 1 network. Thank you all for being it.
So Tessitura, what I'm saying is, where have you been all my life?
Welcome to the 2015 Tessitura Learning and Community Conference, the best learning, idea sharing, and networking opportunity for arts and cultural professionals on this planet. Looking at 1,722 of you out there in Orlando, here at the Grand Lakes, is inspiring to me. And we hope that by the end of this week, you will all be inspired.
All of you represent a wide array of organizations doing incredible work to share the arts and culture of your institutions with your communities. And that is at the heart of why we are here in Orlando together.
And the work we support on stages, in halls and galleries, through art and performance, exhibits and education, hold the potential to be catalysts for true personal and social transformation.
Re-enthuse myself with the entire job and the system and help go back and get everyone in my department excited about it.
There's ideas and kernels of things that you can sort of bring back to your organization, whether it's about creating a culture across the entire organization or little sort of solutions and quick fix ideas that you can sort of, share with your team and then you can sort of put into action.
How other people are kind of hacking Tessitura that I really have enjoyed. How do you make it work for you? What kind of tips and tricks do you have? That's what I really enjoy.
It's just really fun for me to connect with other people who are in the field that I'm in.
Getting to meet everyone from so many different types of organizations and also just within the performing arts. It's been really great.
Some of the greatest minds in our industry today are right here in our community.
The fact that the retention rate for this company is 85% is one of the craziest and most amazing things I've heard.
It makes me meet really cool people who are way smarter than me, and I learn a lot from them, so it's amazing.
Just to be in that community of arts people is invaluable.
Sort of geek summer camp, and I feel like that's pretty accurate.
So we've been doing the 5K for quite a few years now, and I will tell you right now, this is the best course there is.
I'm looking forward to the band.
Actually made friends, like lifelong friends that I met at the conference.
My Tessitura career has created a family. The Shining Moments video of the Tessitura Learning and Community Conference provide us with a reminder of what we were all able to be part of the last 4 days, and what community and knowledge sharing can do for the soul. Andrew Recinos is such an inspiring, thought-provoking, and emotionally enticing storyteller. He reminds us that we can all fuel the future for ourselves, our organizations, our community, with insights drawn from life, collaboration, and each other. I have determined that you can only follow brilliant life lessons from a true leader, Andrew, and emotional and tear-provoking videos with either just a thank you or with a global superstar. Go back to her. I'm starstruck. You do not want to try to raise the bar. Thus, I approached this close with caution. I proceed knowing that there are planes to catch, pools to jump into, and friendships to treasure. And I proceed assuming that most of you want to know if it's one of those 10 cities, is for actually going to be where TLCC 2016 is, or is Jack just messing with me again? So I do proceed with caution and with an eye for time. There's a learning concept called total immersion. Immersion can be scary, but done under proper teaching, it can be effective. I believe that there is total immersion happening in the Tessitura Network as well. We've been seeing so many of these all week that it's truly inspiring to me to see how each of you are interacting with each other and with the world. And I have not wanted to ask our team about whether they think about the conference, dream about the conference, literally 24 hours a day while here, and likely pretty close to that in the weeks and months leading up to it, because I know that is the case. We live in the culture to another level. The concept also can be applied at the company level for your organizational trust in the decision to select Tessitura and thus be part of the Tessitura community. It is total immersion and what we, the Tessitura Network, can bring to each other and to bring to your success. The business and knowledge sharing capabilities, the Tessitura technology, services, and community that we are known for are worldwide. I have to admit, Andrew and I were sitting next to each other during Renee Fleming's amazing talk, and we both had the same thoughts. There was somewhat of an out-of-body experience feeling going on. To think that 14 years ago, a few of you, and Chuck and I, and then others, had the concept of a kind of company that could be different. And now, in 2015, we were listening to a global visionary, leader, a cultural ambassador, an artist without description comment literally that the world of arts and culture needs Tessitura. And she assumed that everyone had it. It was surreal for us. In essence, buying into Tessitura Network is buying into trust that we can help you run your business as a partner with capabilities that help you transact, communicate, analyze, unify, innovate, and succeed, both at the daily satisfaction level for your constituents and at the mission achieving level for your organizations. The Perot Museum, I'm not sure who put this together, combined the mission statements of every organization in the Tessitura Network into a word cloud. This shows us why we were here. And the biggest word on that page is what? Community. Oh my God. And that, as I said on Sunday, is what we are here for. It is in our mission, it is in our culture, it is in our minds. For those 43% of you that were first-timers and new to Tessitura this year, we hope your goals were achieved. For those 59 organizations that joined the Tessitura Network since August of 2014, we thank you for your trust and hope that your goals were fulfilled to date. I also hope you have realized that we were here for you at any time for any need. I do not have any regrets about this week. I do have regrets about this week. Not that it is ending. 4.5 days of 253 sessions is total immersion. But regrets that I did not meet everyone. I met many, and I was pleased to watch Team Tessitura interact and assist all week, and that all of you had the best opportunity in the arts and cultural sector to learn, idea share, and network that you can possibly have in your career. It does not have to stop here and now. There are virtual and in-person ways and channels to easily keep this going literally all year, if you take advantage of them, and we hope you will. The concept of community is in our DNA. And your success is in our heads and in our hearts. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for dreaming. Thank you for learning. Thank you for sharing. And to Team Tessitura, thank you for what you do to make this success happen every day of the year. Thank you.